Okay, shalom. I think it's become a custom to start the class with the announcement. Definitely, I'm not an authority on this subject, that's for sure. It's more for me than anybody else, really. Trying to pick up some pointers from Rav Wolbe. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. Okay, anyway, let's start. Says Rav Wolbe starts this segment with Darchei HaChinuch, right? The ways, different ways of Chinuch. So he says to achieve the goal of Chinuch, it's twofold. There's two things that we have to have in mind. There are two ways, or not even two paths. There are two methods that have to be integrated. One is, he calls it dugma ishit. That's the personal model. That means he has to be a role model. The parents have to be a role model. He says one of the major things of parenting is you have to be their role model, whether you like it or not. Kids identify with their parents. They want to copy them. Right? You see little girls, they do exactly like their mother does. And boys do exactly like their father. I could tell you a lot of funny stories in our own home, but I won't, because I'm sure you've all seen it.
Switch, right?
No, there are certain things that don't switch. Certain things, like behavior, demeanor, yes. But actions and different things, for sure not. You see it. You see it all the time. You just want to copy them. Now, if you're showing them a good model, then good. Then you have what to talk about. And if the relationship between the parents and the child and the children is a healthy one, healthy meaning it's warm, it's heartfelt, then naturally the boy would want to be like the father, and the girl would want to be like her mother. Right? They like what they see and they grow up with it, Even when they grow up, they want to be that. So definitely, based on this, a major component of Chinuch would be that personal example, right? If parents demand of a child something that they themselves don't do, that's ridiculous. Not only is it ridiculous, it's damaging to the child, because the child sees contradictions and he gets more and more confused. He sees the father doesn't do it himself or the mother doesn't do it herself, but they're demanding of him or her to behave in a certain way or to talk in a certain way, or they want a certain thing to be important for the child, and to them it has zero importance. These things are damaging. So we have to think. We have to think before implementing anything, to see if we ourselves are it. Are we there ourselves or not? So that becomes a very, very important aspect of Chinuch. Definitely very important. It's I would say 60%. 60% is it. You don't have to say anything even. It's just that. The number two is clarification, education, talking. What does that mean? As the child grows, we need to talk to them. We need to teach them, explain to them about emunah, what it means, emunah in Hashem. Basic principles of emunah in Hashem is something that they have to pick up at home from the parents. It has to be talked to them offhandedly. You don't have to sit down and say, okay, listen to me, the Rambam says these are the 13 Ikarei Emunah. No, it's not. It has to be by the way, as you're talking here, there, it has to be thrown based definitely on the on the level of the child. But it has to be there, it has to be explained. We're going to go into it later more. You have to explain the mitzvot of the Torah. You have to explain to them halachot. These things have to be explained. You can't say, this is a young kid, doesn't understand, it's too young. No. You can't think to yourself, you know what, let him do it for now without explanation and then we'll figure something out. No. Give them that chashivut, give the child that kavod, that respect that they deserve to understand. They deserve that explanation, they deserve that in order that they should see and understand that there is a lot of things behind what we're doing. There is an Emuna in Hashem, there is a mitzvot, there is a Torah learning, all of these things. There's always room for explanation. Of course, we have to tone it down in their language. We have to tone it down in their level of understanding, but not to get out of it. Sometimes we say, when you grow up, you're going to understand. Give them something. Give them something that is substantial for them, that they could chew on. Right? Unfortunately, Rav Wolbe says this is something that people tend to neglect. They don't deal enough in explaining things. Child comes, asks, why do we do this? Why do we do Netilat Yadayim?
How do you explain that to a 3-year-old?
So very good. You say because our hands are kadosh. We do mitzvot with our hands, and when you want to eat, sometimes it might be dirty. So you do Netilat Yadayim, you bring kedusha to your hands.
They know what kedusha is?
They'll pick up the concepts. Yeah. They'll pick up the concept. You say, the Beit Knesset, when you go, wow, it's holy. There's a Sefer Torah there, and people are praying. There's a Kedusha. You gotta explain to them. You have to talk to them. Explain to them the concepts as much as they could understand. That's one thing. Or you could tell them, our hands are dirty, and our Chachamim taught us that this is one of the ways to make them clean. If it's very dirty, you gotta wash it with soap. But then again, you need to do this process of using the cup to pour water, and it's true. These are brought down in halakha. It's not like that we're not chas v'shalom. You're not gonna lie to them. It's gonna bite you. Very important.
He asked me yesterday, and I didn't know how to say.
For Netilah.
Tameh,
So look, you could. It's always okay to tell them, what? I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you on this. That's a very good question you're asking. Let me get back to you, and then do a little bit of research. Of course, it has to be in their level, but it has to be explained. It has to be explained. You explain to them, and that's why you have to be so careful to do it properly. That the water has to get all over your hand. They have to know. Kids, they see, that you're doing it to them. They do it, but they don't know the halachot. You have to explain. Once in a while, and repeat the halachot, how much water has to be poured. This is just a simple example, and other mitzvot, all these things. It's good for us. It's a good education for sure for us. I remember many years ago, I was in yeshiva. Would come here for visit. Can't even tell you how many years ago. Maybe 26, 7 years ago. And I was the only yeshiva boy that would come. There's no one else. It's the Tarchem wasn't here. It was in Old Moshe before they even moved to La Cienega. And guys, they would come they were even older than me. Why do we do this? Why do that? I was going crazy. Yeah, I'm a regular yeshiva boy. What do I know? So I went out and I bought some sefarim that explain the reasoning behind these things, and I made sure to go through it. So when I came, you should have some answers. Otherwise, it's all better easy. Imagine all these guys, they're asking you questions and you don't know. So what are you doing in yeshiva? They don't understand what goes on. But for sure, it's something that causes us to even learn more. Why not? It's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth the investment. I think we gain both ways. All right. Now we're going to go back and try to see through the being that role model and also the explanation. We're going to go through it in a much wider range. So says Rav Wolbe, let's take a look and see in the ways of chinuch, like, what are the correct ways that we should go with. And he says the number one condition, right, is love, ahava. That's the number one thing. And he brings from a researcher, a very famous researcher. He found a very interesting phenomenon. He tried to compare or contrast between a baby that is born and an animal that is born on the day of birth, in the first stage, right? So he made it. It was a long research that he made. Comes out that the baby, when the baby is born, the structure and his mobility and all these things, he still needs another year to be able to get to where an animal is on the day of birth. Right. So it comes out that the 9 months of pregnancy only ends halfway. It ends halfway. After 9 months, you're only up to halfway of what is needed for this baby to be able to be a functioning being. As we know, everybody knows, in biology, the day a cat is born, the moment a cat is born, is already jumping. Yes. I'm sure you've seen it, right? Everybody's seen a horse, right? A horse being born, as soon as he's born, he just wobbles a little bit and then starts running. Right away. I've seen a calf being born. Same thing, in the beginning, then they picked it up, it wobbled a little bit on these tiny, tiny, skinny legs. It was unimaginable. Starts walking, going from here to there. A baby, are you kidding me, is a log. It doesn't do nothing except for cry. That's it. And it takes time. It can't do anything. It takes time. From 9 months to a year, to be able to do things that this animal was already doing, laughed it, right? So he says that in the formation of a human being, Hashem had a plan, and he's showing us something. That first year, the second half of pregnancy, the first year of the child's life, right? Its job is to be a social womb. That means the baby is out, but it's still within, right? Within a society, within a close society. It's already with the family. In the second half of the pregnancy, the child needs to connect, right? Connect and relate to the father, connect and relate to the mother. We call it bonding, right? And if there are siblings, with the siblings, that is where the child is going to continue growing with them, being a log, being not so active, very little, constructive action that is taking place here, but that living within the society, because that is what a human being is. A human being needs a society, needs a group to be with. An animal could do fine without a group, could find its meals without anyone's help. Over time, it does that. But a human being needs to be social, needs to have someone to talk to, needs to have someone to relate to. And that, the second part of the pregnancy brings. So he says, it comes out from this study that a baby needs to be in the cradle of a home. What is that cradle of the home? it's the warmth. The baby needs that warmth, that love that is given to it, and that at that first stage when it's born. Everybody hugs it, everybody loves, and you see a baby, you automatically smile because it's so pure. That's how it is. That's how Hashem did it. In Eretz Israel, everybody is familiar with the system of the kibbutz, right? If you study on the kibbutzim, the history of the kibbutzim, it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling how they did it. A lot of destruction came from it. Just study it. Just read up on it. The history of kibbutz. So the way it works, it's really communal. The whole thing is like a communal system. The total, the socialist, and the way everybody is a worker, right? Everything belongs to everyone, and everybody is a worker. So when a mother gives birth, what would they do? They would take the baby to the baby house. They had a special house set up for the infants when they were born. Mother would only come to feed the baby once or twice or 3 times a day, and the baby was there. Was not home. And then later, as the baby grew, the mother would come, take care of it a little bit here and there. That's it. Mother would go back to the fields working, and the baby would grow. They would raise her. There were people that would be working there, and they would raise them. That's how they did it. Over time, they changed the system. They don't do that anymore in the kibbutz. Right? Now, the babies are at home with their parents. This is how, they decided that they have to change. I think it's already 30 years at least. I'm not sure exactly when they changed it, but they changed it. Why? Why did they change? Because they saw that the children were not developing properly. They were missing something. In their mind, there was a major thing that was not there. And that is the love and the warmth of family that was lacking. There was zero. There was none of that. Absolutely cold. That's what it was. A baby needs love, lots and lots and lots of it. A lot of it. That's how they grow. And Baruch Hashem sends that chen, that there is a certain chen on the babies, and the parents see it. Okay, we have time for the next segment. This is age-old question. Punishment. Right? So everybody asks, punishing the children. So there is an opinion, right? It used to be very widespread. It still is. That the major component of chinuch, educating the child, is through punishment. Okay? Punishment, I don't mean really only physical punishment. Many types of punishment. Rabbi says, unfortunately, this opinion is very widespread amongst educators. He says one time a principal, a menahel of a big cheder, he's a professional. He's been doing this for years and years. He wrote a very nice book, Bas Chinuch, but he named the book "When to Punish the Child." He says, I asked him, why do you have to give such a name to your book? Everybody would go and talk to Rabbi. So Rabbi says, I asked him, why do you have to give such a name? Right? He says, you wrote so many nice things in the book. Why should the outlook be when to punish the child? Right? Punishment is the last resort when it comes to chinuch. That's not how the outlook should be when to punish the child. That's not how you do it at all. It has to be far from that. He says, when it comes to punishment, there is an inner desire of the parents to want to control. That's where it's coming from, right? It shows a certain desire by parents, right, to control. He says a person feels that when he has that ability to punish someone, that's when they have control. A teacher in class, right? Same idea. He feels that he does not have control over the class unless he's given certain leverage as far as punishment is concerned. When to punish? He says one time, a person came to me, to Rav. He was offered a job to be a mashgiach in a high school. Okay? What's a mashgiach? Mashgiach is someone who oversees the development of the children, how the children are doing, how the students are coping, he's watching over them. He's like their father in school, basically. So this person was offered this job. So he comes to Rav to talk to him, to discuss with him. He says one of the first questions that he asked of me was, how much authority should he have? So I asked him, what do you mean? He said, do I have an authority to kick a boy out of the yeshiva or not? He says, this is one of his first questions. Rabbi says, I saw already a mashgiach and an educator, this person will not be. Right? He says, if this is his first outlook, this is his first concern, when do I kick a kid out of the yeshiva? If this is what he's thinking about, if he's looking for that authority, how to do that, to show his control, it shows what is going on in his head, right? So you could imagine Rav did not put that stamp of approval on this person, and he did not, I'm sure he didn't, this is such approach is from the beginning is messed up. He said the same thing with parents. If the whole outlook, if the whole question stems from, okay, when should I punish him? This is not a healthy environment of chinuch. So we'll ask, wait a minute. Shlomo HaMelech says in the pasuk in Sefer Mishlei, Chosech shivto soneh beno. What does that mean? Pasuk in Mishlei. Chosech shivto, one who holds back. Shevet is a staff. Okay? It's a staff that a king has. Staff. Chosech shivto, one who holds back that shevet. Soneh beno, he hates his child. So you see it from here, you gotta beat him up. You gotta give it to him, show him, otherwise it's not gonna work. He says, it's not true. Pasuk says, Va'er'eh et son ha'hariga, right? I see the sheep that was taken to be slaughtered. Lachen aniyeh hatzon, to you, the poor sheep. Va'ekach li shnei maklot, I take for myself 2 sticks. La'echad karati noam, one of them I called noam. Noam means pleasant. V'la'echad karati chavalim, the other one I call, let's call it destructiveness. Va'er'eh et hatzon, and I shepherd, right, the sheep. Right? Pasuk from Zargari Navi. What do we see from here? We're not going to go through explaining the whole pasuk. He's called out to lead the sheep, and he takes for himself 2 different types of stick. They're both makel. They're both sticks. One is called noam. The other one is called chavalim. Okay? There is one that you're hovel, you hit, you strike with, and there is another one that with this also you are mechanech. With this also you do chinuch. But it's called makel noam, right? It's pleasant. This stick is a pleasant stick. It says you have to know, a stick which is pleasant is also a stick, but it doesn't hurt. Right? If I'm giving a child encouragement, right? If he did something positive and I give him a chocolate, right? This is also a makel. This is also a stick, but it's called makel noam. It's a pleasant stick. He says, Rav Wolbe, we can't measure how damaging it is to the child when you hit him. Can't imagine. He says, Rav Elio Lapian said, he used to tell them, Rav Elio Lapian was the mashkiach in Kfar Hasidim, right? He was like a product of the famous Kelm system, and he was the Zekan HaMashkichim before Rav Wolbe. He was Rav Elio Lapian. He wrote the Sefarim Lev Eliyahu. He says he used to tell us, Im Yeladim, with children, rak b'derech tova. You should only deal with them in the positive, with goodness. This is probably 80 years ago. He said it back then. He says, when he was much older, he said that he regrets for every strike that he gave his children when they were little. Right? He says, Rav Elio Lapian raised 11 children, and a bunch of them are Rashi Yeshivot. Okay? And he said that he regretted every time that he hit them when they were little. Our Chachamim tell us that Kol Esev ve'esev, every blade of grass, yesh lo mazal. It has a mazal. Every blade of grass has a mazal. Listen to the language. Hamakehu, that strikes it, ve'omer lo gedel, and tells it to grow. That's quote unquote. That's what Chazal tell us. That every blade of grass has a mazal on top of it, which hits it, strikes it, and tells it to grow. What's going on here? He says that, what's this mazal? This mazal is that force that makes things grow. Chachamim call that force that makes something grow, they call it makeh. Right? Makeh, strikes. Right? Strikes it and tells it grow. What are we talking about? There's a little angel with nice red cheeks, right, with white wings, standing on top of this grass with a little stick, and he hits the grass and says, "Grow." Is that what's going on? Is that what Chazal are telling us? Obviously not, right? Chachamim are telling us that koach, that force, that power that helps it grow, right? Chachamim call it makeh. It strikes. That's it. That's all it is. Right? We could understand when Shlomo HaMelech says, "Chosech shivto," one who holds back his shevet, that stick hates his child. 100%, you don't have to say that he's talking about taking the child and hitting him. Definitely not. There are other ways to help him grow, right? Much, much, much better and helpful ways. He says, there's something else I want to add, says Rav Wolbe. Something that he says I still see to this day. In the Gemara, Masachet Kiddushin, there's a machloket. There's an argument, debate between the Chachamim, until when is a father allowed to hit his child? Until what age?
Who is this?
Gemara Masachet Kiddushin. Right? Until what age is a father allowed to strike, to hit his child? One says until 16 years of age, or the other one says until the age 24. Right? If the father would strike the child after this age, the father is transgressing the prohibition of lifnei iver lo titen mechshol. Do not put a stumbling block in front of a blind person. You're causing him to commit a sin. You know why? Because the child at that age already is very much independent and is going to rebel against the father, and chas v'shalom, he might even strike back. Rav Wolbe says, nowadays, he's talking 30, 40 years ago, he says if you hit a child already at age 3, you're going to see right away that he's going to turn around and want to strike you back. He says things have changed. You're already over on the isur of lifnei iver. That means you're putting a stumbling block in front of the child at that early age. He says you could see it. Give him a smack, he'll smack you right back. Especially Israeli kids, for sure. Right? He's going to pick up his hand. Right? It's just that he can't reach his father's face. That's all. Give him time. Give him time. He says, but for sure, you could see the movement is there. He says, you have to take this into consideration. He says, earlier times, it was different. Children had a much higher level of tolerance. Much higher level of tolerance. It was different. Even if they would get hit a little bit, it wouldn't destroy them. He says, now, the whole atmosphere in the world is an atmosphere of rebellion. Everybody rebels. He says, especially in Eretz Israel, this is how it is. He says, if someone tries to crush someone by hitting them or anything, not only you're going to get hit back, more, you are damaging the child. And you're damaging that relationship that you have with the child. When he grows up, he's not going to talk to you. He's not going to relate to you. He doesn't want to have anything to do with you, right? And then it's going to be very hard to rebuild that relationship, that open relationship. It's not impossible, but it's going to be tougher. That's what Rabbi says. He says, look, for sure, there are certain events. For example, when the children need to go to sleep, and Baruch Hashem, there's a few kids, and they're all screaming their head off, and the mother is already tired from the whole day, and what happens? She's out of anger, she starts smacking a few of them, and everything is nice and calm, and they think, oh yeah, we handled the situation right. Yeah, you handled it for now. What did it do? Right? He says once in a blue moon it might work, but that's not a shita. That's not a way to do it. Such approach of constantly resorting to this. He says this is pasul. This is mazik. This is damaging. It's not a good thing. He says there is another thing which is equal to striking. Rav Wolbe says, I think it's even worse than striking. Can you guess what it is?
Silence.
Yelling. Right? If a person yells at the child, right? He says you could pay attention. Sometimes when the father or the mother scream, what happens? The child gets so scared, you see on him a certain sense of trembling. Right? It affects their nervous system. And they start shaking. Right? He says screaming is a lot worse. Right? True. It's very hard to hold back. Right? Could you imagine a father comes from work, he's already tired, right? And he's already beat, and the kids are all over the place, jumping and everything. They didn't see him all day. And on the other hand, that's really the time that they have to go to bed. Right? And the mother is screaming and they don't want to go to sleep. So what happens? The father starts getting angry, he screams at them, maybe he smacks them, all of that. It's very hard to hold back. But he says you have to know. One thing we could definitely hold back is to scream. That's we gotta get rid of that. Right? Okay, good. Bezrat Hashem.